Hello guys. See some people start coming in here. Today's video is going to be for Tech Thursday is going to be the hood hinging. Um, Before I start off with today's tech tip, I want to give a good shout out to Ron Spindlediner. Spindiner. I'm sorry I butchered your name. He's from Toledo, Ohio. He sent me a gift today, guys. I do not know what I got. So I'm going to open it in front of you guys right here. I don't know what he sent me, but I want to thank him and appreciate it. I'm going to open it up on camera. Ron may or may not be a follower of mine, but he does support the Chevy Cheeseburger Top 10, and this is a gift from Ron for my second place win this month on the March Street stock. So let's see what we get here. Oh, that's sweet, Ron. And there's a little note in here. And let's see what it says. It says, Minnie, just a quick note. I sponsored the second place March Street Stock Top 10. This is the kit that I told Chip I would send. I hope you can use it. I was happy to see that you won it. I love your work. When I was a boy, and he put in parentheses Jurassic times, I used to cut things up and make things that I dreamt up just like you do. Now I'm 63 and getting back into the hobby and hope to start doing that kind of creating again someday. Keep your dreams alive and may God bless. And it's Ron Black Swamp Custom Model Shop. So guys, we're going to have to find him on YouTube and make sure we subscribe to him. That's Black Swamp. See if you guys can't see that without giving out his address. So let's go show Ron some support. Black Swamp Custom Model Shop. Thank you, Ron. I've never built this kit. I always, when I was into doing the Pro Street and stuff, I always bought the monogram stuff and used it to cut up. But this right here looks like a very nice kit, decent kit. Those headers with the muffled outlets look cool. So thank you, Ron, for that. Really appreciate it. So let's get on with today's tutorial on how to hinge. It says match and paint guide included. That's pretty neat. Alright, we get to add that to the stash. Again, thank you, Ron. So today, these are the items that I use to do the hinging stuff that I do. First off, the products that I use is going to be, the metal wire I use is going to be from K&S, and it's stock number 1602. It's 0.32. Then the square tubing I use is going to be K&S. It's going to be 8149, and it's a 1/16 square. And then the tubing I use, was that focusing in? There it is. It's going to be a 1/16 in tubing. And the difference is the tubing I use for the movement. These right here will be the stationary on your hood, and this right here was what I make the hinges with out of. I use tape for securing the hood in place. Just any tape will work. Use a marker, just a fine tip marker, so you can get in there and make your spots, you know, where you need to, so you can get a good idea where you're going. Use some snips to cut your wire. I use a ruler. And then, depend upon what your hinges or where you want to go, you can either use a needle nose tip like this. See, and you see, you know, you have a it upgrades as you go, and or you can use a straight edge where that way it's the same width all the way across. All right. So, and then I secure it with super glue. This is what I choose to use. And then here's the kicker that I choose to use with it. And this works for me. I'm going to do a few different styles today. I hope you guys have time to sit back and watch and enjoy and learn. I'm going to do this as if I wasn't making a video, guys. I'm going to show you how I do it straight off the top. I'll try to talk you through it as I do it. Please ask your questions, and I'll go back at the end through the questions, and we'll see how this goes instead of stopping and going. The first thing I'm going to show you guys how to do is I've got two Mustang bodies here that I'm going to be working with. The first is an original monogram. It's got to be the 79 80 style Mustang. This one here will be with all the interior and everything molded in. And then we have the new Mustang that has all this stuff is separate. You know, this stuff right here is not with it. So when you're doing this and you decide, hey, look, this kit here, I want to open the hood. Say for the most common is going to be this one. So you get it. First thing I do is I put it in there. I look at it, I size it up, and you notice, see all the movement that the factory kit gets, and it wiggles. It sets down underneath the cowl a little bit, you know. So what I do is, can you guys see all that? Yeah. So what I do is I just I take the hood itself with my snips. I go on here and I get my nibs off. Then I look at it, make sure the nibs are off clean. I guess I should showed you guys too that, you know, you'll have to sand these down. So grab your sanding sticks of your choice. I'm going to be using the UMP sanders. And then I would keep it clean as you're going, so that way everything gets a truer, better fit. Now, I usually set my hood back up there, and I look, and I try to get it centered in the position that I want it for. Does that picture work better for you guys? Yeah, there you go. Alright, and then what I do, once I look at it, and I get my gaps where I want my gaps to be at, then I'll tape it in place. And that way I know my hood's centered to the point where I get basically the same distance left to right. So then I just a little quick tape like that, and then you look underneath. Sometimes underneath it's not dead even. So what you do is, if it's not dead even, you want to add a piece of plastic or whatnot that you can, like Sheldon spoke of yesterday. In order to do a lot of customizing and stuff like me and Sheldon are trying to show you guys to do and stuff, you have to have an ample amount of plastic stock. And you can see my whole tray is just full of it. different sizes. Sheldon had a good recommendation of buying at least one of every size in the scale that you're going to use. Don't just run out there and buy a bunch of plastic. I mean, don't go buy roof sheeting if you know you're never going to build an HO scale or N scale building, you know, because other than that, the ripple would be, you'd have no purpose for it. So now once I got my hood and I got my model subject on what I want to do, I make my hinge by grabbing one piece of rod. I grab, if you guys can't see, I already pre-cut all my stuff for what I want other than the rod. And this right here is just extra pieces, extra tubing. This right here will what mount on the hood. This right here is what we mount on the body. So I take two pieces. I clean them up. I just grab my UMP sander. It's just a 220 on this side, 1200 on this side. I just take the 220, sand it. Because you don't want no restrictions. You don't want no burrs. When you cut it, they're going to have burrs on it. And then I take my rod. I push it through the tube to make sure there's no resistance in it. That way it will move and turn. Alright. Then what I do is I take my tube onto the rod and I make sure it's flush, just like that. One way you can do it is you can clamp it right now if you want to, and just put one little mark in it. It's almost, you gotta put a little bit, almost like a little dent in it, if you guys can't see that. And what that does, that little dent crimp right there has put a friction on it. It's made it to where it's going to hold. I also take my flat tip sometimes and I'll smash it, you know, and I'll make it smash to keep it being able to get the restrict. And the reason why you do that is because if I'm bending the hinge now and I go up with it, it's going to stay up. And if we don't do that, let me show you another quick one. Here's a hinge that, you know, I'd started, and for whatever reason and we put it in your thing here, and you lift it up with the weight of the hood on it. See it, how freely it falls, and it's just going to spin around. It won't hold your hood up. So that's why it won't hold your hood up. That's why you crimp it. And see, because on this one, it's not going to do that. See, it stayed back up. So you crimp it like that, and it just needs a little bit. You don't need a whole lot. You just crimp it enough, and it's going to hold the weight of the hood up. So then what I do, once I do the little crimp it, you got to realize how big you want your hinge. The longer you go down, like this, if I was going to do this, that's how long the hinge is going to be down. It's going to be that far out, and it's going to go that far back up. So that's a pretty big hinge for a little car. So then you can have the needle nose, which is a little bit longer. And what you do is you put it in there like so, and you get, like you can see that little line I have written on there. And what that does, that gives me a littler hinge. And basically you just pinch it in there like that. And then I roll it over. And see, I roll it over like that. And then you get one little hinge. You get one little hinge like that. And if you use the same mark every time, the other hinge is going to work. But now we need to bend it. So you flip it over. You flip the hinge back over, you line it back up to your line, and then you go backwards over it. Then right there's your hinge. Now, you see it's a little crooked. They're easy to fix. You just get your flat nose if you have a flat nose. If not, you just use your fingers and you can eyeball it, and then you can bring it back to shape. Then with the ruler, what I do with the ruler is I lay my hinge down on the ground like that, and then usually I give it a little. I usually go an inch just to give me enough room. So we'll go there. Get you guys back down. I'll go there and I do the inch. Once you cut your brass, you just snip it. I always take my brass again, and then if you guys can't see how it does that burr on it? Well, right there is going to restrain your hood from being able to slide on and off to do the painting. So what you do is you grab your hinge part, and then you just basically put a pin, just sand it down. It don't have to be a straight arrow or nothing like that. But then what you do is you round it off, and that way it don't have that burr in there no more. So now, make your second hinge. You grab your second piece. And then don't forget, you crimp it. You got to crimp both sides to get the support. Just enough. Again, look, just enough of a little dent. It's not smashed the whole way. It's just enough of a dent. And then here's the tricky part. Here's where sometimes it can get confusing and you can waste the product. You got to remember, when you're doing this is going to be one side of the hinge. So you need to bend it the opposite on this one, so that way your hinges could be like this. I do two separate hinges on the hoods instead of one big hinge. So just like last time, we're going to size that up in there. You bend it all the way around. Flip your clamp, and then you come back down. You pull it out, you look at it. Alright, now before you do any gluing, now we have two hinges. Can you guys see that? So now you'll have two hinges. Now before you just start gluing, you want to look at your see if you can. Now before you just start gluing, you want to go in there and you want to lay your hinge down. And first of all, what you're doing is you're trying to get it to an edge that's going to let you move your hinge back and forth. And you'll be able to size up if that's where I wanted to glue it. See how that hinge is angled? And then you want to make sure you do both of them like that. You want to keep your pivot as straight as possible, and then you want to move you'll move your brass. So try to get this point here straight. Don't worry about that part, because you can adjust that part. So what I do is I always use a mirror. I get my mirror out. I'll put me a little bit of glue down. I should have told you guys I use tweezers too. These are medical grade tweezers. These are medical grade tweezers. You can use any tweezers you want. I got a whole array of different tweezers. These are just the ones I use. Now, for me, I'm going to grab my first hinge. I dip it in my glue. See if you guys can see that. I dip it in the glue. And then I take it straight to the body. I put it on the body where I want it to be. and I make sure my hinge itself will be straight, not the brass. I want the hinge to be straight. I don't care about the brass. I got lucky on that one and the brass is straight. So then what I do is I dab it. I put a little dab in there. And then grab your other hinge and you try to eyeball it up and see to make sure that this hook and this hook, that both hooks, you know, the U part of the hinge is going to be in the same spot. Alright, and now you see that I basically got both hooks in the same spot. I'm not worried about the brass. I'm worried about the straightness of both of those. So then I put my instant set on those. And then before I do anything else, I put my instant set on those. And before I do anything else, I look to make sure that my hinge can move. And then as soon as my hinge will move, I'll know it's functionable. So since both of those move, I'll go with it. So now what I do is I try to start straightening them up. In order to straighten them up, you don't want to break this hinge off. So what you do is you grab your needle nose or whatever you choose to use. I usually hold it like this with this one, and then I usually slowly move it with my finger until I get a good spot. And then you slowly get in there and you move it. And then, so once you size them up, once you get all that sized up, then you worry about mounting your hood. Because if these ain't edged up, you'll have a crappy looking hinge. So then I take my two squares. The reason why I use the squares because there'll be a more surface to glue on. You got to make sure that you don't have resistance. This one right here is showing some resistance on the hinge, guys. So I'm going to make sure that we get rid of that. Okay, there it goes. Now it's a lot better. Alright. this is the point where you want to make sure everything works and you know, works together instead of waiting until you're in paint and trying to put the car together. So you see I got that one on there. You always got to make sure. Okay. Then we'll put the other one on there. Alright, now if you guys see, you get both of them on there. So with both of them on there, the reason why you want your hood taped in place, and the reason why you want them on at the same time, because you're going to lift this hinge up. You're going to take your super glue. I'm going to put it on with the toothpick. And then you're going to put it on the back side of this hinge. And then you put it down and you make sure it's flush on the hood, if you can see. If you can't put that hinge back down and it's not flush, then don't glue it yet, because you're going to cause a reaction on the hood itself and it won't be able to open and shut right. So then I just added my instant set on there. I pull the tape off. If you don't have instant set, you're going to have to, you know, give the hinge a few minutes to dry up. Must have had a little piece of glue slip in there. So now here's our hood. And then you check your opening. And see how the resistance keeps the weight of that hood up. Now, it may look... You don't want this look here, guys. You don't want... Let's see if I pull that back a little bit. You don't want that extra brass hanging out. So what you would do is, I like to pull my hoods up a little bit, you know, give them full length of, you know, what you can do it. But it's got this hood cowl on there, so you got to give room for that too. Or usually I would just leave the hood like that. And then what you do is you mark where these hinges are. So now I marked the hinges. See the little orange mark right there? And what you do is you take your clippers and then you clip them, and that way here, at its fullest extent, you've removed the brass. So now your hood can close and it will open, and you don't have that extra brass hanging out all over the place. The hood, you'll still need to do some sanding and fiddling to get the hood, because you don't want no restrictions keeping you from getting the hood on and off. So on the hood itself, and then, you know, you clean up your hinge. And then, you know, here's your hood hinges. The reason why I do separate hood hinges is because if you come to an issue, it's easier to adjust this hinge or this hinge to fit where you need to, versus happen to have a whole big hinge and try to do it. There's other metals and stuff that you guys can use the hinge, but what I'm using is small. It's small enough that we can work with. You can detail it, you can hide it. You know, it's a little bit easier to use. I've seen paper clips, I've seen, plastic tubing and stuff. So use what you guys can use, what you can find, and so after you do this, you got some other issues to look for. Once you do that, you got to make sure that when you do your firewall and your interior, that you're going to have the right spots. Because you see the way I did this in the hinges, now you come down and you're going to realize you got some resistance here. So you look underneath the car and you find out what those hinges are hitting and why it won't go down all the way. And if you can see, they're hitting the top of this shock tower. So there is things that you're going to have to remove sometimes in order for you to get the look you want. So you can either try to cut those off or you could sand them off. I will probably just sand these off. This right here is going to be a drag car anyway. I don't know yet if I'm going to remove the front end or fenders and put a tube chassis under the front end yet or not. What I do is I'll get rid of these the best you can. And it's a detail that I could always put back with, a watch part and stuff. And basically all I'm removing is the shock mount, which they have flush shocks that you can put on these Mustangs anyway, and that way it helps adjust the camber and everything. So with that removed, I just sanded those both off real quick. I put it back on. I look at that, and I look, now the hinge will go below the body line. So now the hood itself should set right. And see now, just by sanding that little bit of sanding, taking the time to do that little bit of sanding, now we got it, Last issue on a build like this, you're going to have to make sure your firewall. So you get your firewall out and you make sure that I don't see the firewall in this kit. And then you take your firewall, and now you got to get your firewall in there. Now we already cut the plastic hinges off of the hood, so there's going to be a little bit of hole that you'll have to fill. But usually what you want to do is you want to put this in place to where it would go, if you were building it. If we were going to finish building it today, I usually take my hood off. I usually place the whole thing together like you're building it, so that way you get the truest fit out of it. Where is that going? See, it's already showing me that it's already hitting. See how it's hitting there already? So what I do is I usually take my ink pen and I draw out where it's hitting. And then see how that is? So then what I start to do is I'll pull it out. I usually will use my Dremel, so I'm going to go ahead and use my Dremel. I'm going to turn it on now, so it's going to get a little loud. And this is another reason why I do everything before paint. So that way you know you're not going to mess up your paint job or anything once you do that. So now I put that back in place. Oh, that fell out. So then once you go back, you'll size it up, and you can see I still need a little bit more over there. That's why you always do test fitting. Okay, once I got it fitting where it needs to be, I'll add the chassis in there to make sure I get what I would call the truest fit. So that way it would have nowhere to go. Now, in order for the hinge to go down, you have to make your lines for it too. See if we can't focus. Alright, so what I'm doing now is just drawing a line at the hinge so that way we can get it into the car. So right there lets me know where my hinge is going to be. Then I take my Dremel back out again, and then I make the grooves. Now, we'll have to fill those holes in. We'll have to fill all this in anyway, because that's where the factory hinges went in and out. What's up, John? Alright, so then you make these little style notches, and then you'll have to tweak them to get where you need to be at. So once you get it in there and you get your notches built, your hood hinge should go in and out like that. And it looks like if you have any resistance, this is the time to clean it up. It looks like I need to go a little further deeper in here. Alright, so then we get that a little bit deeper. And then you put it back in there, and you see where you get this hinge here. We already know it's open and closed fine. Now you look at this one, and there you go, once we get it on there. So once you got that done, relocate your hood back on it. And there you go. That's how you do this style of hood hinge. I've cut the inner fenders and stuff out of this one. I'm planning on doing this right here like a street, you know, small tire street car. But that's how we do that one, guys. I hope you guys seen what tools I use and what little steps I did to go into there. You guys have any questions at this stage? Thanks, Doug. The width of the hinge depend upon how you make your hook, how you make this right here. How you make that will show you, will let you, this right here, this hook here dictates how far this pivot here can move. So if you do it really shallow like this, and then you make your hinge, you're only going to be able to move just a little bit. So the more you do this, the further out the hood is going to go. So if you have the body here, and then the hood is mounted this way, you got to make sure you have enough hook this way to make your movement. Dodge. The sizes I'm using are the K&S. See, trying to get that to focus. The brass wire is stock number 1602. You're looking for 0.32. The square hinging is a 1/16 size. The stock number on it is 8149. The aluminum tubing for the hinge itself, its stock number 1008. Thank you, Jason. Let's see what Doug else said. Oop, went up too far. The hinge part, Doug, is going to, like I said, your basic hinge part, you're going to find out what you like to do. If I got, say on most of my trunks, I use the square. This tip here, because it gets me, it is going to be the brass, it's going to be the brass wire from H&S, from K&S I mean. This is the wire I use. It's just a brass wire. And its stock number is 1602 by K&S. See if I'll put that in the screen for you. So you're going to have to find, Doug, the hinge part, that the most important part will be your distance from here to here, so that way you can clear this parts of the body. You know, because right now you do this, if you made your hinge like this, it ain't going to clear. It ain't going to want to, you know, get that pivot. Brian, I got your card yesterday, bud. Let me, I'm going to show you guys some finished work. Here is a Prevail monogram Impala body that I did the Capri stuff on, and just the different stuff. It's been in the case for a while, but it's dusty. But you can see I had to make wider hinges on this one to clear, you know, the window cowl, because all that sets under the hood. You know, you're going to have to learn the way I made this hinge here. It's a slider hinge. I open the hood just enough. I slide it forward to miss the cowl, and then I made the gap. I had to make that bigger to clear the cowl. But then on the trunk, you know, the trunk just opens and closes. So I didn't have to make the hinge as big for the trunk. So you're going to have to do, I'm trying to get a picture of that trunk for you guys. So you're going, you know, they're each, yeah, you have to make sure that you have the appropriate hinge for your job. And like you can see how wide that hinge there is. And then I slide it backwards, that way it, you know, holds the cowl. Now, we got the builds with, let me see. There's other hinging styles once you get more into hinging. There's hinging styles like this. Whoa, what was that? There's hinging styles like I've done here on the Mazda, and that's because that's the way it factory opens and closes from the factory. And it's a more aggressive hinge. Once you get to learn how to do your hinging and everything, you'll be able to do more complicated stuff like that. It pivots both ways, so I can have it like that. And if you look in there, it's pretty well, you know, I had to do a hinge here, a hinge there, and then I have a center point, but and then the hood still comes on and off, you know, if you really want to get in there and show the detail. And then the trunk is just another set of a little triangle hinge. You know, there's all these different hinges that you can do. This right here, you can see the whole build of this one here from the start of the purchase of the resin body all the way to the completed finish there at scaleworld.net. I built that car, I built that subject there just for scaleworld.net. You can almost hinge anything you guys want. This right here, if you guys know the Tamiya, the Tamiya Honda S2000s. I got to put the mirrors back on this one. The mirrors fell off in transit. This right here is a curbside kit from Doug. This is the only Capri that I have built. I'll show you guys the Honda in a minute. This is the only Capri that I have built. And it was the race car, and I've just I built this one straight out of the box, and it is my version of a day track car. Thank you, Doug. Now this right here, like I was trying to say, this right here was a Tamiya curbside build. You guys can also see the build up of this on scaleworld.net. A lot more eye candy over there. But I cut open the trunk, and then I custom made the hood. And again, it's a slide hinge. And then, you know, I made all the inner fenders and all that stuff for this kit. And then again, you see a different style of hinge. Each subject is going to have a useful hinge. You're going to have to first get comfortable with building a hinge, making a hinge where it works. There's no sense of making a hinge and then you also have to still put something in there to keep it up. You want it. Ohio guy, I have a Chevette now that I'm working on. I actually have 2 of them. So don't limit yourself to just leaving the hood on and off the car. Try it. If you don't get it, you don't get it. But if you don't try, you'll never learn. So next Thursday, like Clifton had mentioned yesterday, that don't give it all out at once. So next Thursday, I will hinge, show you guys how to hinge it where all this stuff is molded in. So you've seen how to do it, and you make everything fit to the hinge. Now we're going to have to make the hinge fit to the body. So next Thursday, we'll hinge this one, and we'll show you how that works and goes. This here, they even have a different style of hood hinge when all this stuff here is molded in. Some kits where stuff is molded in, they have the glue-on hinge. Well, we're going to make it to where you can hinge it. As for the question on the van doors, do you want them to open up? Or do you want the sliding door? Or do you want them to open up factory, you know, where they actually, you know, because most van doors, the hinges are on the outside of the door, and then they open up. Or we can build a hinge just like you would for the hood. Well, that's about it for today, guys. Thank you all for following along. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask, and I'll try to answer what I can. Hello, KD. Is there a subject that you guys want me to address? Is there something that will help you? Well, when you go for Steve's question, to go a Goldwing style, you'll need to have a body. Okay, I'm going to write that down, Doug552. roll cages. Let's see, Doug. If you used to do a gold wing style, you need a build that has the post like this, and then basically you want to cut it in a way to where it goes back into the body, like so. And then basically you would do the same hinge. You would have the body here, and then you'd have the hinge there. You know, like that. And this right here would be your moving part. These right here would be your stationary parts. I'm just going back and looking through some of your guys' comments. You're welcome, Jamie. Jamie Gavin just commented that, you know, thanks for the time to do this. Dodge 552 said thanks for the help. Yeah, that's one thing about that Ohio guy. Some of the Chevettes that people want the prices for is more than what a real one cost. Let's see. Thank you, Anthony, on the R100 comment, bud. If you reverse the hood, Dodge, there's a little bit more difference in there, because when you reverse the hood, right here is just, these are factory things that get cut off. I just hadn't cut them off yet. You got to make the hinge be able to take this hood and go over the front end. You gotta, you know, because you gotta realize that you'll have your lights and your radiator and everything in front of it. So you have to build your hinge in a way you don't manipulate the radiator and it cover, you know, you have the clearance over the front. That's why when making this hood, the hinge is so extravagant, because you have to go up. If you notice, you have to go up and over the grill and everything, and then come back down. And see how I did the hood, the hinge is different on that one. It's actually got 1, 2, 3 moving points, so that way the hood can actually work. It's got one mounting point, but you have to build the hinge in such a way. So you see how when you reverse the hood, that's why you have to, I said each hood has its own hinge subject. So I just going to give you some quick bases. Yeah, the best tool in the hobby, Dodge, is trying it, thinking about it, questioning it. You know, you won't get the answer you need unless you actually try it. Not much. Yo, man. You can do the same thing on the truck, Anthony. You'll just, is it a air tally rig, or is it the Revell diesel? Alright, now on the Revell one, part of the nose is plastic, and then you have to, your actual hinge is in the hood, and then you need to glue that grill on. I'm correct, right? I can't remember the kit on hand. The hinge itself is made into the hood and into the chassis. So if you wanted to change it, what I would do is put, where is my Bronco? Okay, here's a drag Bronco I was working on. Alright. Now on the drag Bronco, I wanted a flip nose front end, and that's what your rig is going to be like. In order to do that flip nose front end, I had to put these brackets on the frame, and I put the moving part itself on the hood. So then it slides in there, and it does this for me. That's how you can do the rig. And on the door hinges, on most rigs, they use piano hinges. There is a Photo X piano hinge out there from Model Car Garage. They're kind of a pain in the butt to work with, but yeah, you could do a regular door hinge on it. And here's the truck there. And then that's would be with the hood open. Morning, Bill. Well, guys, that's going to be the first hinge. Thank you all for stopping by and watching. Don't forget, once this video is posted, you can go back and leave more questions if you had to. You have ideas on stuff that you want to see done, go ahead and leave them here. Don't forget Sheldon over there at the Outlaw Speed Shop. He is doing some video series on techs and tips. So don't forget to check out some of these other channels. Don't forget Extreme Scale Detail for all your detailing supplies if you guys need any. Don't forget scaledworld.net to get some great inspiration. There's some great builds on there. Don't forget the Ultimate Scale modeling products. They have the sanders that you see me use today. They have washes, just all some great tape. So, you know, these are people that support me. They give me a lot of encouragement. So let's go over there and support them and let them know they're doing a great job. Tuesdays and Fridays, the ISM do a great live show. So, you guys, there's a lot of stuff going on in this community. Yeah, Dodge, he makes some great stuff. Sheldon has a whole bunch of more stuff to come, guys. It's just, Extreme has a lot of his stock right now. They're going to sell out of some of that stuff, and then they're going to bring in some new stuff. So don't think that Sheldon is behind on anything. He's got Extreme stocked up, ready to ship. And Sheldon's always working on new products, so there'll be plenty to come from the Outlaw Speed Shop. And don't forget, I'm stressing you guys, if you ever get in a builder's block, if you ever get to the point where you feel like, man, I just can't come up with anything, go to scaledworld.net and look at all the different pieces that, you know, you'll see that I put up there. John will be putting up there. He goes by Gap Hill Speed Shop. You got Little Grant build some great cars for scaledworld.net. Vision 124, he has a great page, great pictures, and you can see his stuff over on scaledworld.net. this is a great, great community. So you guys need to see who else is out there. I really appreciate everybody following me and helping me get this series off the ground. So we'll see you guys all next week. And peace.